Hey everyone, this is On coming to you with this month's video. And this month I'm talking about using your divine spark to shatter corruption, and to create harmony or to harmonize with other people. And this is one of those things that I think is a little bit challenging in these days because a lot of people have thrown up resistances to wanting to harmonize with people, especially if those people share different principles or different thoughts or perspectives or viewpoints than themselves. And it puts them in a position where we're being taught to reject people instead of accept people. And there's a variety of layers that we could get into on that. We're not going to get into them today. Uh, there with all of that teaching, and it is trying to get the light on me a little bit better. My teeth actually aren't that bad. They just they just don't have light on them. That makes them look dark at times. So really when I look at this, it comes down to a really simple principle. And that simple principle is that the more that we're shining our light, the easier it is to see corruption. And I think sometimes we get so lost in trying to do the right thing, in standing on the right side of the fence, so to say, being in whatever alignment, that we forget to actually look at our own light and our own spark. And we live in a world where there's a lot of devaluing that goes on, where a lot of people, they've lost their self-worth, they've lost their sense of value. And in the process of that, of being made less than other people, no matter who they are, this is happened. This isn't a cultural thing or a color thing, or, it's just people in general have been devalued. And that spans every race and every culture, I would say, in our world today. And that leads people to feel as if they're not good enough. And I've talked a lot about that in the past, right? Where people not feeling good enough, not appreciating who they are necessarily, not appreciating what they're born into. Because, like, when I worked with people, for example, on personal year reports or life reports or things like that, then they'll come to me and they'll say, "How come I got such a crappy life?" How come I got all the hard influences? And a lot of times that's because they're not seeing their own light. They're not seeing their own worth and value because they're taught to strive for material things. They're taught to go after status and perceptions and to be pleasing in the sight of others and all of those sorts of things that have been real big in our world. So what we really want to do, and our focus in this upcoming month, is to realize that our light is this incredible, beautiful gift that we've been given. It is truly the spark of God or divine source that we carry within us. And there isn't one aspect of that, even in the challenging patterns, that is not a gift. I mean, every single one of them is a gift. It's just a matter of whether we want it to be a gift or whether we are going to use it in very destructive ways or to fall into the more destructive patterns instead of the divine patterns, so to say, of it. It's all on the same spectrum. It just depends on whether you're operating a lot in divine alignment or if you're operating a lot in absence of divine alignment in there. So, that kind of spans the rebellion and the acceptance and all of these different areas that we often talk about. Well, this kind of leads into this aspect of so many people, they're always looking outside of themselves. And again, I know I've talked about this in the past, but they tend to look outside of themselves for what they're supposed to be doing in the world, what their mission is, what their purpose is. But truly, shining our own light is our mission. It is our purpose. It is our responsibility, and it is our obligation. And it's really the one and only true one we have, because when we choose to embrace and shine our light in the world, then what we are doing is we are allowing ourselves to be that vehicle, that catalyst that we are, which happens when we're made of this organic material that we call the human self. uh, we become that catalyst and that vehicle for God or divine source to exist in the world, to be present, to be shown, to be seen in the world. And we're convinced through our human mindset, we've got all these programmings that we have to do these spectacular feats. And I'm not knocking the people who go out and can, do some big things in the world by any means. But the key is not always those things. The key is that we're actually shining our light, because we know that there are a lot of spiritual people out there who are doing some pretty big things, but it doesn't mean that they're shining their light in the process of doing that. So, and excuse me, I've just got a little, my throat's been drying out on me this morning, but uh, when we look at this, so many times there's a lot of people that feel like I don't have the resources, I don't have the capability, I don't have the connections or the partnerships or this or that, whatever it is that they're using as doing it. And therefore I am less than, I don't impact people, I don't have a big social life, I don't have, we can come up with 1,001 excuses, right? But the reality of it is you don't need any of those things to shine your light. And it is your light that is the source. It's the source of God's energy. And we're each given this spark. We're each given a piece of the divine that we represent, and nobody else can represent it the way we can. And we can have, a million other people who are operating under the same core spark energy, but at the same time, none of them are going to be able to do the spark the way that we do. So it's very unique, just like our DNA is unique, just like, our code patterns are unique in life. And so the key becomes really, if we want to shatter this corruption that's in our world, if we want to really be able to harmonize with people, which is, really our core essence here in many ways. Some people will disagree, but here again, we could go down 1,000 different rabbit holes as far as, shattering corruption, not shattering and corruption, embracing it, all of these things. Yes, it has its place and its value, but what we're shattering are the pieces that are destructive and not valuable, kind of like clearing out the bad bacteria in your body, which creates and holds disease, as opposed to nourishing the good bacteria in your body, which gives you health. And it's a very similar process in that. So if we can embrace the spark that we are, whatever that is, and then not be jealous of what others get to be. And this is something that I see a lot, even among pretty spiritual people out there. And they take a look and they're like, well, why can't I get the teamwork? Why can't I get the teamwork spark? Why don't I get the abundance spark, or the, whatever spark, the victory spark, or, these sorts of things. But I often find that sometimes a lot of the people that get those, what we would consider easier, right? More success or easier materialistic times, actually are not built for the challenges. They're built for their purpose. And they may have already been through super hard times, or they may be clearing some sort of karmic choice from other existences, or doing other pieces in there. But some souls are here because they are developing strength. Sometimes we're in these hardship patterns because we need to show others what is possible. So some of those people that might be standing in those so-called easier patterns, they need to be reminded of what's possible. They need to be reminded that indeed there are hardships that exist, even when they don't personally experience them. And the key is, what if our hardships harmonized with somebody who's successful and it stimulated a great idea for how to help people who are in hardships? That's kind of an ideal expression in a way of divine spirit and motion. I would say in there. So the key is that every spark can have its pros and its cons to it. That's just the reality, just like anything in this world. There are going to be pros and cons to everything, right? There's pros to living a really simple, basic life. I mean, there's people that can say, oh, there's so many pros in living vehicle life. Well, there's a lot of cons in living vehicle life too, but likewise, there's a lot of pros in having a home and there's a lot of cons in having a home, right? Because you have a lot of other expenses and things you have to take care of and responsibilities you have. And there's all kinds of things. So we're all built in different ways. And when we keep that in mind, I guarantee you that just like you might be wishing you had somebody else's spark, there's probably a lot of people that wish they had your spark out there. I mean, I can think of a lot of people that think, wow, I wish that I had the strength to step away from materialism like you do. I wish I had the strength to have the faith and the commitment and the spirit and to live in Christ principles like you do. Yeah, but I get there because of the hardships. you know, I could have taken a different path. My life could have taken a very materialistic path, which is actually on the same pattern spectrum of the Christ consciousness as this heavy materialism pattern. And so, a lot of people would not want to put up with the aspects of being deprived of a lot of material things or comforts, basic comforts in life, to have that pattern. So, the key is that each one is valuable. I mean, there's a lot of people out there, they might be having success, but they might also be getting manipulated a lot. And they don't have that ability to see the truth very easily. So it can take them down some really rough paths. I mean, this is just an example of some of that. And so the more we can embrace that spark that we are, the more that we understand our essence. And that's part of what I love when I do the life reports for people, is because that spark, they get to know more about what their spark is in the world, what their reflection of God or divine source is in the world. And so when we can do that and we start to realize the beauty of the spark that we are. So when I start to realize, hey, I get to radiate Christ consciousness in this world. I get to radiate spirit and faith and these different things. And that's my spark. And the more I embrace that, the less I feel the challenges. The stronger I embrace that, the less influence or power that any kind of corruption will have over me. So when I come face to face with the hardships and the challenges and the corruption and the people that are not in integrity, then what I'm doing is really having to make a choice. I mean, either I diminish my light and let it overpower me and fall into the materialistic patterns, or I shine my light brighter and lean into that and let that radiate higher. And I don't want to say higher, that wasn't quite the right word, stronger. When I make that connection and I strengthen that connection and I really stand in that, the corruption naturally falls away. Those people with ill intent naturally fall away. And I think I've shared this story before, but a couple of years when I was touring a couple of years ago, and I came across somebody who'd just gotten out of prison. And they had just gotten out of prison for murdering an older woman. As a matter of fact, not to make light of that poor woman's situation, but they had a tendency of doing stuff to people. And I was in my vehicle in a sort of truck stop, gas station type place for the night. And all I could do was radiate my light while I was there and even walking in and out of the place. And it was the essence of stepping further into that Christ consciousness energy that may have saved my life, literally. It definitely detoured the corruption and the negative and the evil energy, because when his friends met up with him and they were right outside of my vehicle, I was not moving in there at all. um, he made a comment. He said, "No, there's a holy woman in there." And the only reason he could say that was because of how strong I was radiating my life. And he said, "I don't touch holy women." So this is just an example that as we stand strong in who we are, whatever our essence is of the divine spark, and the more we embrace it and love it. Now I could sit there and say, "Oh, woe is me. I've always got to be dealing with these people." I gotta always deal with these really materialistic, greedy people who are trying to break my spirit and everything else, or I can just be in that energy. And it's amazing. And also what happens then is the more that I'm in that energy, the more it extends an unspoken invitation for other people to be in their spark. And even if I don't agree with them, our energies will naturally harmonize. Our energies will naturally flow, and we can still have respect for each other as people on the face of this earth, soul to soul, even when we don't agree with things. And this is a huge part, because here again, we can flow, we can work with people. We don't have to be in battle with them. And the stronger I stand in my spark, or you stand in your spark, then the less you're going to deal with resistance and combat from people, because it will naturally unfold or open up their divine essence. And this is another aspect that we naturally can see the divine essence in those people around us, even when we know they're going down challenging paths, because we can see the benefits of something. We can see the benefits of their hardships or the distortions they're in or the illusions they might be in. And we have to be careful, because sometimes we might be looking at an illusion, right? We might be looking at them making a judgment about them being in a certain space or a certain place, or being a certain type of person. And they may not actually be that. That just may be what we're choosing to see. Many people ask me, how can I be grateful for or compassionate for the people who are on the face of the earth that do some not nice things? And there's still a spark of the divine, whether I like it or not. And they may not be honoring their spark, and that's why they're doing some of the things that they're doing. But they serve a purpose. And it's hard to talk about even things like those who are on genocide missions. If we look at them in a divine spark, they're here to keep things in balance and control. Now they've gotten lost maybe in the power and the earthly power and control, and disconnected maybe from God or divine source in that process. So they start to misuse their gift in the world, but they still hold a valuable piece. And if I can honor the spirit piece in them, the more I can bring them back into that piece, not from a manipulative space, but simply an invitation and a reminder to be the spark that they are. And it's just like no role, no job is really truly more important than another. So when we can honor what each job a person is here to do, and appreciate it, then the less likely they will be to fall into those distortions and those illusions and become separated from God or divine source. So this brings up the harmony. So again, I don't have to. I'm sharing some of the deeper layers of this stuff with you, but I don't have to do anything but be the spark. Um, the key is just to simplify things. When we're standing in that spark, we can simplify things. We don't make them complicated. We just need to be us, and we need to do that without worrying about the impression that we're making on others, because so many people, they are trying to make their spark bigger and better than other people. I'm higher than this. This is a higher frequency. Actually not. Actually not. The frequencies are all frequencies. There's not a higher frequency or a lower frequency. There is a denser frequency or a lighter frequency, perhaps. Again, when we look at it from this aspect, there's not really a right or wrong so much as there is, we're either sitting in a very heavy, dense, third dimensional earthly frequency, or we're sitting in, more of a Christ consciousness frequency, or, a heart-centered frequency. Again, they each have their value and their purpose in the world. So if we can simplify things and we can stop trying to impress others with what we're doing and who we are, and just focus on being us, then that's where we can allow God or divine source to shine the brightest and to be bright and to be strong. And we want to remember that God and divine source shines brightly and strongly in the most simple things and the most simple ways. So it doesn't have to impress anything or anyone. It doesn't have to sit there and go, I'm the best tree in the forest. Look at me. I'm the straighter, taller, bigger, better tree out of anybody else here. Well, that's, it doesn't matter in the bigger scheme of things, really. And, God is as much in that little tiny pine sapling as it is in the big giant trees. Just because the sapling is small and just starting to grow doesn't mean that there's less God in it. So thinking about that, that brings us back to this concept that the more I simply do me, the more that I simply focus on my own spark and being as strong in that as I can possibly be, the more that I allow God and divine source to radiate through, the more I invite divine presence into anything and everywhere I am. And there isn't anything that is going to supersede that. There isn't anything that can overpower that. And when I really rest into that knowing, there's nothing to fear, there's nothing to worry about, there's no one to impress, there's no better than or worse than other people. It's just appreciation. And the stronger we are in that spark, the less susceptible we are to our addictions. And that's a really important thing in this world, because most of what controls us, most of what pulls us out of divine alignment is addictions. And that can even be addiction to spirituality. That can be addiction to religion. That can be addiction to anything. I mean, literally anything. That can even be addiction to comfortable surroundings. And why is that? Because our addictions become what is used to control us. And when we can be controlled, we will be able to be pulled out of divine alignment. We will be able to be separated and pulled away from God or divine source. So when we release our addictions, then nothing can pull us away from God or divine source. And so this isn't just about leading a so-called Puritan life. It's about removing the temptations. It's about removing the pieces that don't allow you to shine your light. Because when you're in those addictions, no matter what they are, like I said, including religion, including spirituality, you're relying on things outside of yourself. You're relying on things that are outside of God. You're relying on material things. And that's a huge key. And that doesn't really get you anywhere. That's not going to get you through when times get rough. That's not going to get you through when things get challenging. That's not going to get you through those people who want to be feisty and combative and compete with you and things like that. Your strongest space is in that alignment. So I hope this has been valuable for you. And, if you'd like to find out more about what your divine spark is, the life report that I do is a great way to do that. I look at you, how you function in the outer world, the world in general at large, socially, casually, professionally. Also look at your intimate world connections, how you function in deep personal relationships, your bloodline energy, which is connected to your family heritage, and also an overall pattern, which is your life pattern and what you're here to deal with. What piece of the divine are you radiating in a sense? What is your challenges and assets to a certain extent, and helping you to embrace those. So that's something worth checking out. Don't forget, by the way, to pick up your copy of the book. I don't have my 2025 up yet, but this is 2024. Oops, I got to turn this a little bit. It's a little blurry in there. But anyways, the Code Journey, you can pick that up over on my website under the Goods tab. You'll find the Code Journey. And that's at www.compassioncodes.com. So check that out. You can email me, you can message me through the website, through social media, whatever. Normally I get back to people pretty quickly. Some of my social media channels, they've stopped sending me messages anywhere and everywhere. So I don't always notice when somebody's made a comment on something, but yeah, feel free to reach out and message me. I'm usually pretty quick at getting back to people. But hey, until next month, just keep shining your light. Just be the spark and love the spark that you are. Love the piece of the divine that you are. Take care, everybody. Sorry. Got to just get there.